I got laid off after age 50, not because I wasn't performing, not because I stopped working hard, and not because I'm walking my dog, but because the company decided it was time to restructure. If you're watching this, there's a good chance something similar happened to you. Your salary is gone, your routine is gone, you're developing new ones, and trying to figure out what comes next. For me, the first thing I did wasn't another job application. It was something completely different. I opened a rideshare app and decided to test whether I could survive without a traditional job. So now that I'm back inside, welcome to the channel. It's about 3 months since that meeting. Yes, the one that flips you upside down. You walk in, a normal day, and walk out with a severance package and 1,000 questions. If you're over 50 like me, those questions hit hard. They even hit harder. Is this what early retirement is? How long will my savings last? What will I do next? But here's the part nobody's really talking about. Sometimes the next step isn't another job. At least I'm hoping that's not what it is for me. But perhaps a testing ground to see if I can stand on my own 2 feet. Being laid off is emotional. And for me, the mindset to jump into another job, prepping for interviews, and even putting out my best, I'm not sure if I'm in the right mind space for it. So, because I consider myself a people person, and I already own an eligible vehicle, the simplest place for me to start was rideshare. Not because it's glamorous, definitely not. Not because it's easy, because from what I've seen, it's not. But it's to help me answer that question, can I actually generate an income on my own? Layoffs, I think, hit people like me, not because of performance, but because sometimes we have higher salaries than the new hire. Sometimes we've accumulated more benefits, stock options, longer vacation, and potentially, depending on the company you work with, like me, I had a contributory pension plan. So it costs the company more. So sometimes they go through restructures, or mergers, or automation, even AI. We hear about AI all the time, and AI is replacing, teams that used to do lots of work before. And now the thing is, people in my bucket, we basically fall into the category of all those things. So what do? Look for something flexible. That's what I'm doing. And I don't really want to think about a hiring manager looking at a whole bunch of applications, including my own, and saying, let's give this guy a chance. So that's how I ended up thinking about testing rideshare. It's just a bridge between the life I've had and the life I'm trying to build next. First 3 days, if I think about it, I remember shock, anger, fear, even embarrassment. But they were the days that shaped my next chapter. Here's what I remember. I remember being there for my other colleagues that were impacted, one of which reported directly into me. I think the next day's meeting, I had some technical difficulties, but it was with my direct reports, and my leadership was communicating what occurred, and of course my silent attendance. And then there were many informal meetings with my team and others, with their support for me and encouragement that this was not the end, and not to undervalue my worth. And at the time, those were words, and it was actually nice to hear, but those are the things that I really appreciate about what was said. And one of the things I do admire is my boss. He also got laid off, and he displayed such high emotional intelligence. He still wanted the business to do well, and even though he wouldn't be contributing, but he set an example for me. So by the time I got my meeting, I had something to look back on and see, maybe this is how I should be: professional and ride into the sunset. Since then, here's a more thoughtful position. Don't panic. Panic leads to bad decisions. And in my case, I think if I had just taken another job just to feel safe, that could have been a mistake. Review your severance carefully. I did that. I actually went to an external lawyer, and my company encouraged it, which was good. If you have, long tenure like I did, you may be entitled to more. So explore those options. Document everything. Dates, benefits, restrictions, non-competes, all of it matters. Because you don't want to have your severance impacted when you least expect it. And then the other thing is, you want to think about what you want to do to generate income. And as I've said, for me, it wasn't another job posting. It was actually a steering wheel. And your rights matter. My rights matter. And so does the next move that I make, and any others in this position. Yes, you qualify for severance. Yes, you might qualify for employment insurance. And yes, you may have legal options. But even with all of that, I and all of us in this boat, we need to plan for what comes next. And that's where, for me, rideshare comes more than just a gig. It becomes a testing ground for me, a place to learn. Some of you looking at this, it may be something else, but I'm just sharing what I've done and how I can maybe earn money realistically. I'll look at what the math looks like, the gas, the wear and tear, the money I could make. Could this replace my salary? Is this a bridge or is this a trap? I need to evaluate those things. And I also need to evaluate my skills that I had in my old function, and the new things that I need to look at and enhance now. Maybe I need to learn new skills. But this is where the work and my chapter actually begins. Losing my job at this age felt like kind of the end in a way. But for some people, and I'm hoping for myself, it becomes something totally different. Because for the first time in decades, I am forced to ask, what do I actually want to do next? I could go back to another job in corporate. I could pivot to consulting perhaps. I could start a small business, which is an option. I can look at online income streams. But almost all of those paths lead with the same question about, can I generate income on my own? And this is where rideshare gives me the fastest, the simplest, lowest barrier way to test that. It's definitely not the final destination. It's an experiment, the bridge I've been talking about, the proving ground. So if you're like me and you've been laid off after 50 and you even want to consider rideshare, here's what I did. Stabilize your finances. You need to get a clear view on what your severance will pay you every month and your expenses. I'm not the only income earner in my household. And while that might sound comforting to some of you, it actually means there's more at risk in terms of my and my wife's lifestyle. We could take a major hit if that severance runs out and there's no income to replace it. For me, it's not a full-time job. It's enough to see what the real numbers look like. So I'm going to be tracking everything: gas, mileage, maintenance, earnings per hour, the cost per kilo. And I'm going to start educating myself to see what else I need to do. I have subscribed to channels I never would have watched before. There are more, but these are what I watch the most. Levi Spires, hopefully I pronounced that right. He is the tip you in the app, the rideshare guy or guys. There's a whole bunch of them. RideXerve and Driver Eddie. Update your resume and LinkedIn. Not because you're running back to corporate, but because opportunities often show up when you least expect it. I am actually hoping that I get some opportunities while I am doing rideshare, but more on that as they reveal themselves. But driving gives me structure, income, hopefully, and momentum. Three things layoffs take away instantly. It gets me up in the morning, sometimes as early as 4 a.m., helping others to get to work or others from going back home from their shifts. As mentioned before, these could be consulting, freelancing, starting a small business, looking at online services, or some sort of part-time work. For me, YouTube is one of my new bridges I am exploring. Prior to 2026 and before my layoff, this channel probably never would have existed. Another activity I did back in January was to attend the National Franchise Show in downtown Toronto, just to keep my options open. Again, rideshare isn't the dream, it's my launching pad. So if you're going through a layoff after age 50, or you've been fired, you're not alone. And if you're using rideshare, as I am, to test your next chapter, or just want to know what some people are doing to survive, you're in the right place. You're welcome to subscribe to my channel to stay updated as to what I am doing to survive. Check the description and pin comment for links to the YouTube channels I mentioned earlier. And because you've met Jacob, my dog, at the beginning of this video, if you're interested in knowing more about his Instagram page, write me up in the comments saying you want to see Jacob's Instagram handle, and I will definitely share it. Losing your job at this stage in life feels devastating. But for many people, and I'm trying to be one of those people, it's a reset, a reinvention, a second look, a second chapter that I probably wasn't expecting at all. If you've done something else other than rideshare, or even rideshare, and it's working for you, let me know. I would love to hear your stories. I would love to see what you're doing. Maybe it could be something else I decide to test. Thank you again, and have a great day, everyone. And thanks again for those YouTube channel guys. You're all great. I keep looking at you, and I do appreciate everything that you do.